Now, the majority of the research in organizational cynicism has been done in a largely Western context and actually primarily North American. And it focuses on the broad antecedents, organizational antecedents of cynicism, and these include things like breaking promises. Whether or not these were explicit promises or if the employee believes that they've been implied, that can lead to higher levels of cynicism. We know that downsizing, either experienced directly or vicariously, leads to higher levels of organizational cynicism. We know that perceived lack of support on the part of the organization. We know that unethical behavior, perceived unethical behavior, leads to increased cynicism. And we also know that people can be very cynical about organizational change. When we look at the sort of broad outcomes of organizational cynicism, we see that by and large they are negative. So people are less happy with their jobs, they are less committed to their organizations, and specifically it's less of that good commitment that we want. We all have a tendency to avoid the negative, but in fact, in the case of those who are cynical, it likely won't help, and it may even make things worse. In fact, listening to people who are high in organizational cynicism may actually provide new insights, because these people tend to be really good at spotting flaws. They tend to be very critical, and sometimes that's really helpful when we're thinking about certain actions. But we do want to make sure that organizations allow a formal process, that it allows employees to have a voice. We want to follow through where possible on announced initiatives and opportunities and match our words and actions, and have resources in place to support employees during times of turbulence. What can supervisors do? Again, do not do this. We want to take the time to develop unique relationships with all subordinates, accounting for the fact that sometimes it is difficult to spend the time developing relationships with people who we are not similar to. We want to look beyond the cynicism and provide support, encouragement, and opportunity, and also stress that objectivity in subordinate evaluations. The onus is really on the leader to make sure that they are really trying to actively engage with all subordinates, regardless of whether or not they are similar to them. You know, when LMX lead research was sort of first discussed, when this relationship quality research was first discussed, it was referred to as sort of in-group, out-group, right? Acknowledging that there's a group of people that get along really well with the leader and they get all the resources, and then there's this other group who just goes along and does their job, and they're not the beneficiaries. So we want to sort of move from that in-group, out-group to unique relationships where everybody gets what they need. I really do think that part of the problem, the hierarchy lends itself to part of the problem. So when you have somebody who has control over all the resources and makes all the decisions and has all the responsibility, but then also has responsibility for people, I mean, where are you balancing, how are you helping that individual to balance their own responsibilities? And you know, we talked about performance management. Well, it's also the leader's performance management as well. What are they getting rewarded for? Is the leader getting rewarded for the relationships that they're developing with their direct reports? Are they getting rewarded for the quality of the feedback that they're giving the direct reports? So I think the more you sort of build that in and take, maybe it is a case where, you know, you use a little bit more empowerment techniques. And so direct reports are getting a little bit more responsibility, in turn taking some of the responsibilities and pressures away from the leader, which frees up more time for one-on-one discussions. It leaves more time for feedback. It leaves more time for goal setting. It leaves more time for transparency.